The person who will be wealthier than you in 10 years isn't earning more. They're not smarter. They don't have a secret investment or a hidden shortcut. The only thing separating them from you is a decision so small, so unremarkable, that you already made it without noticing, probably before breakfast this morning. And the uncomfortable part, you've been trained to ignore it. Think about the last time you saw a penny on the ground, not a dollar, not a 20, a single cent, and without deciding, without any real conscious thought, you walked past it. Something in your brain said, not worth it. That thought lives so deep in you that it doesn't announce itself. It's automatic, reflexive, and it's costing you more than you can calculate right now. Here's what nobody is saying out loud. Dismissing small amounts of money isn't just a habit, it's a declaration. Every time you pass the penny, ignore the $3 transaction fee, skip the $12 subscription you forgot you had. You are quietly, consistently practicing who you will become financially. The market doesn't care about your income, it cares about your patterns, and your patterns are being written in the moments that feel too small to matter. The difference between someone who builds wealth and someone who spends their life waiting for the right moment isn't what they earned, it's what they trained themselves to notice. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you something that changes how you see money at the smallest level, and why that shift either builds empires or prevents them. Not through a math lecture, not a motivation speech. Through a pattern, a specific, invisible pattern that controls what your financial life looks like 20 years from now, regardless of what you earn today. There are 3 phases to this. The third is the one most people never hear. Stay with me, because that's the one that actually does the work. Water doesn't cut stone by force. Anyone who stood at the edge of the Grand Canyon understands this. That canyon wasn't blasted open by an explosion. It was carved over millions of years by a river that simply refused to stop returning to the same place. The Colorado River didn't need to be powerful, it needed to be consistent. And the stone, hard, indifferent, enormous, didn't stand a chance against something that kept showing up. That's compound interest reduced to its physical form. And here's the uncomfortable truth about it. Most people already understand compound interest. They've heard the math, they've seen the charts, they nod, they move on, and nothing changes. Because they never understood that compounding isn't primarily a financial strategy, it's a psychological identity. You either are someone who builds with small, consistent actions, or you aren't. And which one you are shows up long before any investment. It shows up in whether you picked up the penny. Here's where it gets specific. Research on financial behavior reveals something that never makes the front page. The size of a person's savings isn't most strongly predicted by their income level. It's predicted by micro-decision consistency, how they handle small financial choices, the ones that feel too minor to even register, determines whether the larger decisions ever materialize. The person making $40,000 a year who treats every small amount with discipline is building something the $150,000 earner who dismisses small amounts will never have. Not faster accumulation, a different relationship with money itself. And that relationship is the real compounding asset, the one that outlasts markets. Think of it this way, a river that ignores small tributaries eventually becomes a shallower version of itself. A river that accepts everything, even the smallest stream, even the runoff that looks like nothing, becomes something capable of carving canyons. Your financial identity is built at the micro level, or it isn't built at all. Now here's the reframe, and this is what most financial content refuses to say. You've been sold the idea that wealth is built through big decisions, the right investment at the right time, the business that breaks through, the promotion that changes everything, the inheritance, the stroke of luck, and so you wait for the big moment. And while you wait, the person next to you is quietly running a different system. They're not waiting for a life-changing amount, they're changing the life they have with the amounts already available. Because they understand something at the bone level. The size of the amount does not determine the power of the habit. The habit is what you're building. The money is just the material. A sculptor doesn't wait for better clay. They learn to work with what's in their hands, and every session, regardless of how brief, trains their hands to become more precise. The sculptor who only works when the clay feels worthy, when the moment feels significant enough, never develops the precision that makes the clay respond. That's the person waiting for the right moment to get serious about money, still waiting, still planning, still telling themselves the real work starts when the amount feels worth it. But there's a force working against this, and it's more sophisticated than laziness. The consumer economy was specifically designed to make small amounts feel irrelevant. The $7 coffee, the $14 streaming service, the $2 convenience fee. None of these feel like decisions. They feel like background noise, and that's deliberate because background noise doesn't trigger your decision-making brain. It slips underneath it, unexamined, unchallengeable. The person who has mastered their financial identity doesn't live in austerity. They haven't eliminated pleasure or turned their life into a spreadsheet. They've simply trained themselves to see what others have been engineered to look past. They don't cut everything, they see everything. And then they decide. That's a fundamentally different cognitive state, and it's the state that compounds. Every dollar that moves through your hands with your full awareness is a dollar working for you, even if you choose to spend it. Every dollar that moves through you unconsciously is a dollar training your brain to leak. The difference isn't the amount, it's the attention. This is the part most people reach and feel resistance. Because accepting this means accepting something uncomfortable. The gap between where you are financially and where you want to be didn't open in one catastrophic failure. It opened in 10,000 micro moments of inattention. The pennies you walked past, the subscriptions you stopped using but never canceled, the small transfer you didn't make because it felt too insignificant to bother. None of those feel like crimes, but compounded over years, they become the sentence. And the hardest version of this truth, the one nobody frames directly, you cannot build wealth at scale if you haven't first learned to honor it at the smallest scale. Not because of the amount, because of what the practice does to your attention. Here is what lives underneath all of this, the thing the math can't show. The people who build significant wealth don't focus on small amounts because they need them. They focus on small amounts because they need the person who notices small amounts. The habit of noticing, of treating no dollar as beneath your full attention, rewires how your brain processes financial information at every level. When you train yourself to notice $3, you become the person who notices 3,000. Not because the amounts are equivalent, because the neural pathway that registers this matters, this is real, this deserves a decision is the same pathway. And once trained, it doesn't turn off when the zeros multiply, it scales with you. The fortune isn't made in the big transaction. The fortune is made in the identity you quietly built in the years and decades that preceded it. And that identity begins and is tested at the smallest denomination available to you. The penny on the floor isn't a test of whether you're cheap. It's a test of whether you've decided at the deepest level that you are someone who takes money seriously, no matter what it looks like, no matter what anyone watching might think. This isn't about extreme frugality, not about squeezing joy out of your life. It's about building the attention that wealth requires. Once you have that attention, the amounts you choose to spend feel different, intentional, deliberate, chosen rather than leaked. And the amounts you redirect, even small ones, compound not just financially but psychologically. They build evidence, private evidence that no one else can see, that you are the kind of person who acts with discipline when no one is watching and when the amount doesn't demand it. That evidence accumulates, and one day, without any single dramatic moment you can point to, you look at your financial life and realize the river carved the canyon. The question isn't whether you'll start with a large amount or a small one. Markets will answer that for you again and again in ways you can't fully control. The question is whether you'll be the person who treats the $47 seriously, the 12, the 3, whether you'll be the one who sees the small stream and invites it in instead of watching it evaporate. Because here's what no financial calculator can show you. The most compounding asset in your life isn't your portfolio, it's your discipline. And discipline doesn't start when the stakes feel high enough. It starts exactly where you're standing right now, in ordinary moments, with amounts that seem too small to matter. They matter, they always have. And the person who learns this early enough doesn't just build wealth. They become someone the market cannot take from them, because what they built isn't only in the account, it's in the attention itself. If this shifted something for you, subscribe, because the next video goes deeper into what financial discipline actually looks like when money stops being about survival and starts being about architecture.